Now the pre-inspection is really done. You pre-inspect so you know what to expect. And pre-inspection, again, is something, it does take a little bit of time, but really this is your opportunity to sell your services to the customer. In a proper pre-inspection, we're going to look for any kind of wear and tear. Pay special attention to the welt cords, because this gets a lot of abrasion from pant legs and legs. You're also going to look for heavy soiling. In warm weather climates, a lot of people do wear shorts, and so the first third, fourth of your cushion is going to be heavily soiled. Now this has a nap to it. This is a velvet, so we want to look to make sure that we don't have excessive wear throughout the cushion. The next thing we do is we want to, if it has a zipper, we want to look inside to see what kind of things are hiding in here. And here we have lots of little feathers, which is a telltale sign that we have a down cushion. And down, what you need to watch out for is excess moisture in your cleaning. And this is a perfect example of where the Sapphire Upholstery Pro tool comes in, because it will limit the amount of moisture you're going to be cleaning this with. So it makes it a lot safer to clean something specifically like this. The other thing we want to do now is we want to determine what kind of fiber this is. And what we'll need is a shear, and you can come inside of the cushion, find a little piece of the material, and we want to just simply cut a little piece of that off so that we can do a burn test to determine what this fiber is made out of. I'm just going to hold it here with my shear, take a butane lighter to it. We can see we have a little black smoke and an orange flame. So that tells us that we have a synthetic. If we let that cool and then touch it, I can feel that there's a little bit of a hard bead. That tells me there's a little bit of synthetic. But also there's some soft ash, which tells me that's a blend. So even though this has some synthetic material in it, we do have some soft ash. I'm going to treat this as if it was 100% natural fiber. So I'm going to be careful about my moisture and about the product I choose. Now the product we choose, I'm going to try to clean as aggressive as possible. So I want to start with a wet cleaning system. Wet cleaning is always better than dry cleaning. So we have Liquid Pro, and I want to determine at the temperature I'm going to be using it. So if this were a truck mount, we have this up to temperature. I'm going to take my white towel and I'm going to dip it into my cleaning detergent. And I'm going to come somewhere on the back side, somewhere a little bit inconspicuous. And I want to put that onto the material, clamping it down. And I'm going to leave that set. Now what I also want to do is take my pre-spray. In this case we're using the Upholstery pre-spray. And I'm going to take another white towel. And I have my pre-spray here. I'm going to put some of that onto my white towel. And I'll clamp that in another area. And we're going to let that set for a good 5 minutes to see if we get any color transferring off of this piece. If we get color transfer, that's telling me that maybe the pH of the product choice is a little too high. That does not mean that it's not wet cleanable. We simply would go from a higher pH product down to a lower pH product and do the same test. Once we find something where the color's not transferring, we know it's safe to clean with that product. Now while that's happening, another thing that's often going on when you look inside, you always want to look for upholsterers marks. Inside on the batting material, they'll sometimes write on here, especially if it's a reupholstered piece, cushion number 1, cushion number 3. And we need to be aware of that, because if we go and we wet clean over this material and there's a Sharpie marker marking the upholstery with the upholsterer marks, it's going to wick up. So in that case, we would have to take a piece of plastic sheathing and put that between the batting material and the material here. Now, while we have the customer's attention, and again, we are trying to show them that we care about their upholstery, we're going to do our pre-testing. We also want to pre-vacuum just to show them how much soil that we'll be removing in our cleaning process. So if you take a white towel and put it over the end of your vacuum hose, we can simply come up to the material and vacuum a little piece. Then we can take that out and show them how much dirt we're actually going to be removing from their soiled upholstery. It's also a good time to mention that vacuuming the upholstery as often as you vacuum the carpet is not a bad idea. It'll keep their piece lasting longer. Now that we've had these sitting on here for a good 5 minutes, what we want to do, we have our pre-spray. We want to check for any kind of color transfer. And we have our detergent to see if we have any color transfer. And we see that there is no color transfer. We used it at the temperature we're going to be using it coming out of our truck mount or portable. So it's safe to say that we can wet clean this piece utilizing the Liquid Pro and the upholstery pre-spray. Now, Pat's been working on a couple of pieces that he'd like to talk to you about.
So, Tim, again, one of the major things in our pre-inspection is to make sure that we don't have problems. To your point, what you said is inspect to know what to expect. So one of the weaves that we really want to talk about is the jacquard weave. And the easiest way to identify this, again, is to open up your zipper and take a look at the backing of the material. You see an opposite view or an x-ray view of it. So we did do some testing with our spring clamp and our products, and you can see that we actually did get some dye migration out of this material. So at this point, this is going to tell us that we can't use these type of products or processes where we're going to have to go into a dry foam or a low moisture clean. So we tested a couple of these fibers and fabrics and showed that we do get dye migration off of this jacquard style weave. So you really want to pay attention to this type of weave and make sure that you understand changing your process and your chemistry is the most important part of controlling what happens in your cleaning process. So
yeah, when you say that, jacquards are probably 95% of the time, if you're going to have a bleeder, it's going to be on a jacquard type weave.
I would agree. And again, that's, you know, the more colorful the fabric is when you're doing your cleaning, then the more risk that we have involved in it.
Yeah.
Which leads to another great conversation in regards to what the cleaning codes or the tags actually say on the upholstery. You and I have both experienced people calling us up and saying, well, you know, the cleaning code on this said it was W, or, you know, I could clean it, but then they ended up with some problems. So I think, Tim, you'll have to agree with me. One of the biggest things that you and I ask when somebody calls with a question is, what type of material is it? What type of fabric is it? And that's the number one thing that most people can't tell us. What is the actual content? So if you take a look at the cleaning codes on the tags on the piece of upholstery underneath the cushion, it really doesn't tell you what the outer shell material is. I don't know how many times you get the call where they say, well, I'm cleaning a polyester, because the majority of the time that's what you see. It's what's on the inside, the batting or the stuffing of the cushion is a polyester hollow fill. So when we talk about the cleaning codes, we're going to talk about basically 4 different categories. We have W for wet clean.
Right.
We have S for solvent clean only, which means a water-free cleaning solution. We have WS, which means you can dry clean it or water clean it. And I don't know if you've seen any of the new codes that are out there, but there's now a new code called X, which basically you can't water clean or solvent clean it. All you can really do is dry vacuum it. But in reality, Tim, what is your opinion on these cleaning codes? What do they actually tell us?
I think there's a guy standing there with a bunch of codes that say S, even though it's a nylon sofa, and they're putting that on there. So really the cleaning codes, most things are wet cleanable. It just depends how much moisture you use. So as we get into cleaning methods, we're going to talk a lot about dry foam cleaning. And most S codes can be cleaned with a dry foam cleaning.
I think, here's my opinion, Tim. I actually think those codes are put on there so the customers don't take the sofa out in the driveway and hose it down with their garden hose. But that's just my 2 cents on what the cleaning codes actually mean. So now we've kind of determined some of the risks and some of the testing that we can do to reduce our risk or concerns about dye migration. So as we proceed into the cleaning process, we're going to talk a little more about some of the tools that we use and how to actually employ them and control what's happening in our cleaning.
Great, let's do it, Pat.